So next in our conic sections for parabolas, we are going to talk about how to write the equations from the given information. So in our previous videos, we were given the equations and found the information. Now we're going to be given the different parts of our graph, and from that we will write the equation. So anytime we write an equation for a parabola, we will need to know the direction, because that will tell us if it's going to be x equals or y equals. We need to know our a value and the vertex, which gives us h and k. And remember, for our a value, that might mean we have to figure out c, so remember that a equals 1 over 4c. All right, so as we look at number 5, it gives us the vertex, so that tells me I have h and k, and then it also gives me the focus, so I can use this to find our c value, which then, if we know c, that allows us to find a. Okay. Now, as we are working through these, to figure out the direction, I would do just a rough sketch of a graph of these parts. So if I do that, so if I just kind of make my x and y axis, and it doesn't have to be perfect, so again, this is a rough sketch. The vertex is going to be at 3, 3. And then my focus is going to be at 3, 5. So since the focus is above the vertex, that tells me that my U shape has to be going up. And then if it's going up, that tells me that my equation is going to have to be y equals. And then since I already know h and k, I can fill in those parts. So this will be x minus 3 squared, and then plus 3. So the only piece that I'm missing right now is my a value. So remember, our a is equal to 1 over 4c, and then our distance from the focus to that vertex is c. So if I'm going from 3 to 5, that tells me that my c value has to be 2. So I'm just going to plug that in. So this will be 1 over 4 times 2, which is 8. And then for the equation, we have to leave it as the fraction. Okay. So 1/8 is my a value, so that is going to go here. And then you just want to make sure that it makes sense whether this is positive or negative. So since it's opening up, our a value does have to be positive, where if it opened down, then I would need to make this negative. Okay. All right, so why don't you guys pause the video and see if you can figure out the next 3. All right, so for me, I like to just start by doing a rough sketch of my information. Now the vertex is the h and k, so I already know that piece. So I'm going to the right 4 and then down 5 for my vertex. So I went right 4, down 5. And then the directrix is y equals, so that tells me that it's a horizontal line. And then if it's at -6, it has to go through -6 on the y. Okay. So that means that my U shape has to open away from that. So it has to open up in order for it to open away from the directrix. So that tells me this will be y equals. And then I already have the h and k, so I'm just going to fill that part in. So this will be x minus 4 squared, and then minus 5. So now I just need my a value. So I'm still going to be using a equals 1 over 4c to figure that out. And then to figure out the c, that is this distance right here. So if I'm going from -6 to -5, that means that my c value would be a distance of 1. So I'm just going to substitute that in and then simplify. And remember, for the equation, we're going to leave it as that fraction. So we would write 1/4 in the a spot. And it makes sense to leave it positive since my U shape is opening up. All right, so next one. So So again, I'm going to start with my sketch. So I don't have the vertex this time, I have the focus. So I'm going to the right 5 and then down 2 for the focus. And the directrix, so x equals tells me that it's vertical, and then it has to go through -1 on the x, so that will be here. Okay. Now my U shape has to open away from the directrix, and the focus has to be inside of that U. So this is not an exact picture, but it's going to have to look something like this. So that tells me the direction. So since it's horizontal, because that's opening to the right, that means that this will be x equals. And then I'll have the y in the parenthesis. And I have no idea what my h and k are this time. So I need to figure out what that is. So to do that, I'm going to count the distance from the directrix to the focus. So if I'm going from -1 to 5, that distance is 6. And then I need half of that since the vertex is directly in the middle. So if I take half of 6, that means that my C value is 3. And then I'm going to pick either the focus point or the directrix, and I'm going to count 3 towards the other one. So I'm going to pick the focus, and I would count 3 this way. So if I'm going from 5 and I'm counting backwards 3, that would put me at 2. So then that means that my vertex here would have to be at 2, and then it has to be on the same y value as the focus, which is -2. So now I have my h and k. So remember, k goes on the inside if it's x equals, and I have to switch the sign, so this will be a +2. And then h is on the outside here, so that will be the +2. And then now I need to figure out that a value. And I already know that c is 3, so I can just plug in my c value. So again, 1/4c. So this will be 1/4 times 3, so that will be 1/12. So that is my a. And again, I'm leaving that as the fraction. And it makes sense to leave it positive since my graph is opening to the right. Okay, so starting with my sketch again. So we are given the vertex this time, so I know my h and k right away. So I'm going to the right 4 and then down 1 for that. And then I'm given the directrix. So because it's x equals, that tells me that it's vertical. And then I need to find 3 on my x, so that would be here. And then remember, our U shape has to open away from that. So it's going to open to the right. Okay. So to get my C value, I'm going to have to count the distance between the directrix and the vertex. So I'm counting this distance. So if I'm going from 3 to 4, that means that my C is 1. And then it's horizontal with a positive A since I'm opening to the right. So my equation I know will be x equals, I'm going to have to figure out what my A is. This will be y plus 1 squared. So again, this is my k value, and since I'm subtracting a negative, that's why it becomes a positive. And then plus 4. Okay, and then that means A equals 1/4c. From this, I know my C value is 1, so I'm just substituting that in. So that means that my A is 1/4. And again, it makes sense to leave it positive since I'm opening to the right. All right, now again, go ahead and pause your video to see if you can answer 9 and 10. All right, so again, starting with my sketch, I know the vertex, so that's my H and my K. So I'm going over 2, up 1 for my vertex. And then the focus is at -2, so I'm going to the right 2, up 1. All right, so our focus has to be inside of our U shape. So this tells me that my U is now going to open to the left. So I know it's going to be x equals. I don't know what my a is yet. And then this will be y minus 1 squared plus 2. Okay. So now I need to find my a value, which means that I need to figure out what c is. So C is the distance from the focus to the vertex. So I am just counting this distance. So if I'm going from -2 to 4 as I'm counting, that's going to be a distance of 4. So that means that my C is equal to 4. So using A equals 1 over 4C, I'm going to substitute that in. So this will be 1 over 4 times 4, which is 1 over 16. And then because it is opening to the left, I have to make my a value negative. So when I write this, I'm going to make this a negative 1/16. Okay. All right, last one like this. So again, starting with the sketch. So we are given the focus. So I'm going to the right one, up 7. And then the directrix, since it's y equals, that tells me that it's horizontal through 3. And then that means that my U shape has to be opening up so that my focus is inside of it and it's opening away from the directrix. So I know right now that it's going to be y equals, and then I'll have to figure out the h, the k, and the a. So remember, our vertex has to be directly in the middle between the focus and the directrix. So I'm going to start by counting the total distance from the focus to the directrix. So if I'm counting from 7 back to 3, that means that this distance right here would be 4, and then I need half of that. So half of 4 is 2, which means that my C value is 2. And then I'm just going to pick either the focus or the directrix, and I'm going to count 2 towards the other one. So if I start with the focus and I count 2 towards the directrix, that means that this value here for the y would have to be 5. So the vertex then will be 5, and then it has to be the same x value as what the focus is, so that'll be 1. So there's my h and k. So this will be a -5 and a +1. And then now I just need to find my a value using C. So A is 1 over 4C. And since we know C is 2, this will be 1 over 4 times 2. So that means A is 1/8. And then I'm going to leave it positive since I know that my U shape is opening up.